Hey, what's up? Steven here with Daphne Fit Buddy Forever and Fit Buddy Bootcamp, and was in here working out like I do a lot of times on the weekends in the evening. In here, I like to get in here, get a good sweat going. That's when I tend to get a lot of good ideas, or maybe just a lot of ideas. Sometimes they're good. And as I was mixing up my protein shake here with my True Lean protein powder, my favorite is the vanilla frosted vanilla cake. Love this stuff. A lot of good recipes that we have with this. But anyway, as I was mixing up my protein shake, it got me thinking about one of the things, this theme that we have going on this week, the week of January 11th, which is leverage. Leveraging things so that you don't have to stress out and focus on all the things or think about all the things that you could do, but on the things that you should do, okay? And so I want to quickly show you how you can easily apply that principle to your nutrition to lose more body fat. Specifically, that's what we're going to cover in this topic, but you could use this with nutrition with pretty much any fitness goal, okay? Because just like we talked about, you know, there's a lot of things that you could do, all right, but there's, again, not a lot of things that you should do. So we want to focus on not all the vast variety of things, not all the trivial many, but the vital few, and we do that through leverage. So let's talk about how we can apply that to nutrition, okay? So when we ask the question, the great question, as Gary Keller talks about in his book, The One Thing, which I absolutely love and highly recommend you to read. It's a short book. Even the audiobook is really good. All right. The question that he tells us to ask is, what's the one thing that I could do? All right. The one thing. All right. Such by doing it that it makes everything else easier or unnecessary. Now, sometimes that can take a little while to figure out what the answer to that is, but I want to show you how you can apply this question to your fat loss nutrition. So if we're thinking that we want to lose body fat, right, and what's the one thing that we can do that will make everything else easier or unnecessary? Well, the first thing is, when it comes to nutrition, it's like, well, we need to eat less, right? We need to eat less so we get in a calorie deficit to lose body fat. So that's our kind of big picture one thing. But then the next question he tells us to ask is, what's my one thing right now, okay? So we specifically apply this to nutrition. What's the one thing with food that we could do? And you might start thinking like, well, there's a lot of things, right? Like I could eat less sugar. So maybe that's an option for us, right? So less sugar. All right, what's another option? Less processed foods, okay? So maybe you say, hey, if I eat less processed foods, that will help me lose body fat, that will help me lose weight, okay? So maybe it's less processed foods, okay? And what about, hey, another good one, we're talking about it, that was what made me think of it, the protein. What if we ate more protein, okay? So what if we said, these were our three options that we were going to choose from. What's the one thing? You can only do one. Now, here's the thing, what most people do. They think they got to do them all. I got to do them all because I'm really motivated. I'm really excited. I want to make a change. I want to do it. So, like, I got to make sure I eat less sugar. I got to cut that out. I got to cut out bread. Got to cut out sugar. You've probably told yourself these things, right? I need to do these. But wait, listen to me on this. You don't have to cut out all your sugars. You don't have to cut out all your breads. All right? You don't have to cut out all your processed foods. You can only do one of these. And if you're going to pick one, I would be willing to bet that most of you would choose one of these top two. And then I don't blame you, okay? It's the logical thought of these are the things that make me like gain weight, make me gain body fat, right? So I should get rid of one of those. But that's where you would be wrong on this specific example. And I want to show you why that is, okay? If we said what's the one thing that would make everything else easier or unnecessary, well, let's think about protein. Here's what happens when we eat protein. When we eat protein, okay, the first thing is we have less cravings, less sugar cravings to be exact. All right, so I'm going to draw a line here. We still see that? Yeah, we're still good. All right, so less sugar cravings. Now eating more protein is now making this one easier, okay? Second thing is protein keeps us more full, it's more satiated throughout the day, okay? So now, look, now we don't have to worry about eating as many less processed foods because just eating more protein is going to make us want less processed foods because we're already going to be more full. So now it's making this one easier. And we could keep going, okay? protein in and of itself boosts our metabolism. Okay, research shows about 30 to 40% of the protein that we eat is burned up in digestion. So just eating more protein, drinking more protein powder shakes, eating more lean sources like chicken and beef and fish and things like that, we're burning more calories. And then we can keep going. Protein also helps you maintain your lean muscle, okay, which we know is one of the biggest things that you can do to burn more body fat and burn more calories that boost your metabolism. So protein feeds your lean muscle, so it helps us keep more muscle, which also boosts our metabolism. So as you can see, and we could probably keep going, all right, but as you can see, out of these three, if I had to ask myself, I don't need to do it all. I could do it all, but I shouldn't do it all, because if I try to do all these things, cut out sugar, cut out processed foods, right, and I also try to get more protein in, it's too many things at once. I might can do it for a week, I might can do it for a month, but I can't do it all the time. I can't do it all the time. You can't do it all the time. So what's the one thing that we can do? What's the one thing that we can do that so by doing it will make everything else easier or unnecessary? And when it comes to nutrition, protein is your go-to. That's your one thing that you should start with, because it makes these two things and so many other things easier. Now, before we wrap this up, all right, listen to me on this. What's the last question? Or what's the next question that he says to ask that we talked about? What's my next one thing? So big picture is eat more protein. Small picture, focus for like the next day, okay? I know I didn't eat any more protein, so what's my one thing to ensure that I can get more protein in? And that one thing to make it easier would be getting some protein powder or protein bars or something easy, because we want to make it easy to succeed and hard to fail. And if we do that, that should be our one focus, our one thing. Could do a lot of things. We could pre-grill chicken breast. We could get, prepackaged meals. We could get a lot of things. We could do a lot of meal prep, right? We could cook all these different recipes. We could do that. But we shouldn't do that first. What we should do first is the easiest thing, the one thing. And the one thing when it comes to getting more protein powder is stuff like protein powder, as we said, snacks, bars, jerky, all the easy stuff, so that it's almost impossible to fail. So use leverage, all right, this week. Think about your goals. What's your goal? Based on your goal, what's the one big picture thing out of everything else that you could do that would make everything else as it relates to your goal easy or unnecessary? Once you find that answer, then ask yourself the next question. All right, now that I know what my one thing is, what's my one thing today? What's the one thing I could take action on that would make it easy for me to succeed and hard to fail? And if you do this, it helps you cut through the noise. It reduces stress because you don't have to think, I got to do this and this and this and this and this and try to make all these changes. Just focus on one thing. When you do, that one thing can lead into the next one thing and the next one thing, into a lot of things. And before you know it, you wake up a month, 6 months, 12 months later, and you've made massive progress, all because you focused on one thing. All right, so pick your one thing this week, take action, and we'll see you next week.